Asylum hotels are in the headlines, and today new stats show that the numbers of asylum seekers being housed in hotels are up. By the end of June, there were more than 32,000 staying in hotels, up 8% on the same time last year.
The system has become fundamentally clogged up. It's become a bit like we've heard in the NHS, where waiting lists just become unmanageable and people can't move through and get operations. In the asylum system, we've got endless waiting lists for a decision, if you like.
And it poses a massive challenge for the government, which says it wants to close the hotels down. That's without taking into account the court ruling, which said this hotel in Epping should be shut, and people like Kadar moved out.
I'm not here to harm anybody. I'm here to actually look for safety, to look for a better life.
Well, Enver is the Chief Executive of the Refugee Council and joins me now. Enver, thank you for joining us. The government promised to end the use of asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament, and yet the numbers are up 8% in a year. How did we get to this place?
Well, we got to this place, Romilly, because the last government essentially created a system meltdown in the asylum system. It stopped processing cases and it left people languishing for weeks and months, sometimes years on end, without a decision. So to be fair to the Labour government, it inherited a backlog, a huge crisis, a dysfunctional system, and it's had to start working through that backlog. But it's facing increasing challenges in doing that.
It certainly is, and the figures show that the number claiming asylum has almost doubled since 2021. What has changed in that period?
Well, there's an awful lot of instability around the world. If you just look at the horrendous civil war in Sudan, if you look at the fact that we have repressive regimes in countries like Eritrea, Afghanistan, Iran, people will, as a result of that, want to find safety in European countries. Remember, though, 7 out of 10 refugees will want to stay close to home. So those fleeing Sudan will stay in their neighbouring country, Chad, because they want to get back to Sudan as quickly as possible. So whilst the numbers have risen applying for asylum, and globally the number of refugees has increased, the proportion wanting to stay close to their own country remains the same. And we've seen an increase as a result of global instability, and the numbers have gone up a bit. But it's also important to remember that people come to the UK because of family connections, historic connections, being able to speak the English language. It's no surprise that the vast majority of people from Francophone African countries, for example, go to France seeking asylum. They don't come to the UK.
Yeah, important to remember that. And now we have this legal ruling, which has meant that those who are being housed in the Bell Hotel are going to have to be moved. And more councils are saying that they are also considering legal action to shut down asylum hotels. What's your response to that?
Well, the asylum system is very much dysfunctional. As I said, the government inherited a mess, and no one thinks that we should be using hotels. I don't think that. No one in politics thinks that. People on the street don't think that. They're a huge waste of people, of taxpayers' money, and they're a huge waste of government resources. We need to find a solution. Our concern is that waiting another 4 years till 2029 is a long way off, and the government needs to do more to take action now. One of the big issues that we're seeing in the data released today is, whilst the number of decisions has massively increased, and the government should be applauded for that, the quality of decisions is still very variable. And as a result, lots of people are challenging their decision. They're making an appeal, and that means that people aren't moving through the system, so the government isn't able to clear the backlog as quickly as possible, because there's another backlog appearing in the appeals system. The government needs to look at the quality of decisions, but it also needs to think about whether, if they're people who are going to be granted asylum anyway, or who are going to be refused anyway, if they can create a mechanism doing things differently where those decisions can be taken even more quickly.
And caught in the middle of all of this, the asylum seekers themselves. We've spoken to Kadar Mohammed, who is currently being housed in the Bell Hotel and now faces, well, he doesn't know what he's facing. Let's have a listen to what he had to say to us.
Please don't move us, because if you move us, everyone else will want to do the same to us. If they were to take us to another hotel or to another area, it's going to be the same. They're going to be another people, protesting, to get us out of the hotel or to close the hotel, because they have the same thing. They are concerned about us because they see us as criminals, as pedophiles, and we are not. We're not. What one person does not, represent us or what we are. I'm not here to harm anybody. I'm here to actually look for safety, to look for a better life. Were we going to be homeless? I was asking that question to the office in the hotel, and they weren't offering us any information about what's going to happen what is going to happen to us next.
He has a very valid point, doesn't he? Where are these people supposed to go?
He doesn't. Look, we work with thousands of people in the asylum system. We know, like Kadir, that they've not come here to cause trouble. Of course, there are some people who do commit criminal acts, and they absolutely should be dealt with. But the vast majority of people in the asylum system simply want to rebuild their lives, want a decision on their case, and don't want to be living in hotels. I think the government needs to work better with councils, so they're not putting accommodation in areas of the country without consultation with councils, and it needs to make decisions more quickly so we've got people moving through the system. There are already 70,000 places that the government can use at any time in the asylum accommodation system, separate from hotels. Those should be enough if you can get decision making and get people moving through the system. But let's not forget, these are human beings. They need to be treated with dignity. They've lost everything through no fault of their own very often. And we need to remember that they are parents, they have wives, they have children. We need to respect them, and we need to give them a fair hearing in the way that we've done for generations, so refugees can go on if they're allowed to stay and contribute to our communities.
So the problem, you think, is not necessarily a lack of places, a lack of accommodation, it's the slowness of the system.
The system has become fundamentally clogged up. It's become a bit like we've heard in the NHS, where waiting lists just become unmanageable and people can't move through and get operations. In the asylum system, we've got endless waiting lists for a decision, if you like. And as a consequence of that, the system effectively grounds to a halt, which is why you have to start using hotels. So the government's challenge is to build on the progress it's made to date by massively speeding up decisions, but going further and thinking of other ways, different ways, because we're not in a business as usual predicament when we have hotels and we have people's understandable concerns about those hotels protesting. They have to think differently and even find other ways to speed up decisions so we can get the system working much more effectively.
And wouldn't it be great if that happened? Enver Solomon, thank you very much for going through all of that with us.
Thank you.